Hey everybody, this is your boy Jim, Austin online all the time. How y'all doing out there? I'm doing great today. We're here doing my bi-monthly podcast on Jim Austin online on Anchor all over the world. And what we try to do is keep you abreast of what's going on in commercial real estate. We let you know what's happening in North Texas. But most of all, I talk to unique people that got something to say each time. Folks that can make your life better and educate you about what's going on. So today, here at the podcast studios in the Stockyards, we're at 21st and Main. Encourage you to come by. The coffee's always hot. But today, I have a new friend. A friend that's making some things happen that's going to be very important to the National Multicultural Western Heritage Museum, important to you because we are sharing what it is to live in the back in the day in the Western history. So I want to introduce Clayton Cullum, Chief Operating Officer with the Cowtown Coliseum in the Stockyards. How you doing, Cullum?
Very good, very good. Thank you for having me.
Well, we took a brief tour of the National Multicultural Western Heritage Museum. And what'd you think, sir?
It's very impressive, very impressive. I think everybody should come down and go through that.
And he said, wow, 10 times.
Yeah.
And he probably knows more about the history of the West than I do, but I'm bringing it up. My wife and I are founders of the National Multicultural Western Heritage Museum. And we're celebrating 20 years of
That's
existence. Great. And you know, being a nonprofit, if you've been around for 20 years, you're making a good statement.
Yes, you are.
Yes, sir. So
not easy, especially in this economy.
Yeah. So go to cowboysofcolor.org. Check me out on Jim Austin online. Subscribe to my Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, on and on and on, if you want to know what's going on. So, Cullen, tell me, not Cullen, Clayton, tell me about, and I'm sure some people call you Cullen because that's such a cool name too, but Clayton, tell me where you grew up, where you're from, kids, family, a little bit about you, how you got into this rodeo business.
Well, I grew up in a little small town in Southern California and went all through school there, graduated, thought I was going to be a doctor, attended the University of Southern California as a pre-med student, fell in love, decided I wanted to get married, and went into construction of all things. I left college, classic story, pulled out of college and got married, decision that I do not regret, let me tell you. We've had a wonderful, wonderful life together. We've been married 47 years. We have 3 adult children, and we have 9.5 grandchildren. The other half will be a whole in October.
Okay.
We just found out it's a boy, so we're excited about that. My son's having a little boy, so we're excited about that. And so as I was in construction, I started working at a fairgrounds in Paso Robles, California. We moved north about 4 hours. I always tell everybody I got as far away from LA as I could get without getting close to San Francisco. So we're right halfway between LA and San Francisco, right up the coast 101 highway. And we've lived there for about 40 years and went to work at the fair there in Paso Robles. It is a very, very well-known fair in the entertainment industry. We had the biggest names that there are out there that come through there for a 10-day fair. Got kind of gravitated toward the stage. I became the production manager, the stage manager, then the production manager. Then I worked my way into the office. I became the contract administrator, and then I became the entertainment director for the fair, handling all of the relationships with all the big name artists, and then when they're on site, handling their production. And the former CEO of the Professional Bull Riders, PBR, also worked at that fair, Mr. Randy Bernard. And he and I worked together there for many years. In fact, he and I produced the first PBR event that was held at that fair in 1995. right after that event,
Tell everybody what a PPR.
Professional Bull Riders.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Professional Bull Rider Show. So we did that. That was back in the TNN days. It was broadcast on the Nashville network, which is now defunct, but been bought out a couple times. It was on TNN, and so we produced that show there, the first show in Paso Robles. And then right following that show, Randy got hired by the PBR to be their executive director. Became the CEO. 6 years later, he called me and he goes, "My producer just left and you're the new one." Literally, those were the words that came out of his mouth. And I went, "What?" I don't know anything about bull riding. And he said, "Yeah, but you know production." He said, I need a producer. And I said, "Well, I'll come look." And it took me about 6 weeks of going to shows and watching and everything. And finally, I said yes. And so I was the Senior Vice President of Production for Professional Bull Riders for 12 years. Toured the world over, Australia, Canada, Brazil, China, Mexico. I think that's all of them. So we did that for 12 years. And then in 2016, I left. I freelance produced, which is a fancy word for unemployed. And so I did that for a while and did everything from mutton busting to other rodeos and all of that. But all at the same time, I was still producing RFD TV's The American.
Yes.
I've produced that show in some capacity since its inception. In 2014, I think was the first one. We've done 8 of them now. And so that's held at AT&T Stadium every year. So I've done that every year, even while I was freelancing. And then the owner of RFD TV said, "Well, I think you need to be working for me full time, and we're going to do Rodeo New York at Madison Square Garden. I want you to manage it." Okay, so now I'm the general manager for Rodeo New York and the live event producer for the American at AT&T. And then COVID hit. So we canceled Rodeo New York, and I get a call. "Well, I can't pay you for doing nothing. I guess this is it." Pretty cut and dry. So that was March 27th of 2020. So I went from then until September 31st. And within 2 days, I got 2 calls and people offering me 2 different jobs, but I had to move to Fort Worth to do it.
Okay.
Well, let me think about this. So I came back and I met with Craig Cavalier, the general manager of Stockyards Heritage Development, and they were had bought the lease on the Coliseum. And he said, "Well, I think we have a deal worked out. You can still work for RFD TV. You can work for us. We'll share you. You can draw 2 paychecks. Is that enough to get you to move to Fort Worth?" So talked it over with my wife, prayed about it, and said, "Well, I guess this must be what we're supposed to do." So we kind of pulled up stakes. We still have the place in California. We don't know how long we're going to be here, but we're sure enjoying it while we're here, that's for sure. So we got a little place in Saginaw, and that's where we live now, and just having fun working at the Coliseum. Just finished the American at AT&T. We did that March 6 and 7, and it was a huge success even in the midst of COVID. Mm-hmm. So we're real happy to do that. So that brings us here today. That's kind of my life in a nutshell.
Well, you had dates, times, and places, and got an extensive background in rodeo and bull riding, and coming in, you replaced a dear friend of mine, Hub Baker.
Mm-hmm. Know him well.
Yeah, Hub, is a dear friend. He's in our Hall of Fame, and sounding by your credentials that you're the material of the type person that we try to recognize in the Hall of Fame for the National Multicultural Western Heritage Museum. We try to tell the past, the present, and the future through that history. Mm-hmm. Got to interview a young bull rider, 8 years old, Parker Hooks, that was here for the rodeo championships over in Mesquite. His parents came over and family to tour the museum, and Parker Hooks, 8 years old, riding bulls. So I don't know families if riding bulls is the best thing to recommend to get into the into this lifestyle, but I do tell you, as a parent, if you want to possibly favorably get a scholarship for your kid to go to college, have them get into the equestrian horse training management business. Would you agree with that,
Absolutely,
Clayton?
absolutely. There's rodeo organizations in just about every university,
Yeah.
and they give scholarships. So if you're good enough, you might get a scholarship, get your way paid through college by rodeoing.
And
Absolutely.
they're looking for people of color. You know?
Absolutely.
You
You and I
know.
have had that discussion that there's just not enough people of color in rodeo.
In rodeo. And
We need more of
if
that.
you do ranch management at TCU, they teach you how to manage a ranch.
Mhm.
But you also can manage whatever business that you want to do. So, young ladies, young boys, barrel racing, there's an opportunity. We're partnering with Tarleton University, and they have a ranch rodeo team over there. So, yeah, that's a part. So, let's talk about the Coliseum a little bit. We came out the other day. You had a super program the other day that we attended for MLK weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us what's going on at the Cowtown Coliseum, one of the oldest indoor rodeo facilities in the world, right here in the stockyards.
The very first indoor rodeo was held at the Cowtown Coliseum right here in Fort Worth. So that's kind of one of our distinctions. The Cowtown Coliseum was built in 1908, built in 88 working days start to finish, which is a phenomenal feat when you look at it, at a cost of $250,000 at the time. And it is just this marvelous building. It's obviously old. It's 113 years old now. But it is just this amazing building with so much history, so much character in this building. Bob Hope has played there. Enrico Caruso, the opera singer. Doris Day. Elvis Presley played there twice. We've had presidents. We've had queens. We've had all manner of dignitaries. We've had movies that have been filmed there, music videos. There's a documentary being shot there today. I just left the crew out in the arena. They're shooting a documentary on Lane Frost, and they're shooting that in the Coliseum. And what's happening now at the Coliseum is very, very exciting. July 16th, the new ownership took management. I started on September 31st as the chief operating officer. And the new vision for the Coliseum is just bigger and better than it's ever been before. If you haven't been to the Coliseum lately, I encourage you, come to one of our rodeos and look at that. You'll see a huge difference. We've taken all the signage off the windows and opened up those beautiful architectural windows that are down each side. It lets the sun in. People come in and they go, "Did you paint the chairs?" And I go, "Nope. We just let some light in."
let some light in.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the first things we did was pressure washed everything. It was just so much dust and everything, and we've taken down some old structures that weren't very nice, and just really trying to care for the old gal and clean her up a little bit, and the next thing on my punch list is paint. It needs paint very desperately inside. And so as soon as we can fit that into the budget, as you might imagine on a building that size, that's a pretty big ticket item. But that's the next thing on my hit list, if you want to call it that. But yeah, lots of exciting things happening, not just in the Coliseum, but in the stockyards as a whole. There's just a whole new vision for the stockyards and the Coliseum.
The Mule Alley.
Oh, yes.
I mean, just phenomenal.
The Hotel Drover just opened up. If you haven't toured that, do so. It is an amazing place.
I was there for the ribbon cutting, and I was there for the party of Fort Worth, and a 5-star hotel. I encourage you to come down, have a drink, have dinner. There's so much going on in the stockyards. Billy Bob's is celebrating 40 years of existence.
Yep.
They got a lot of big acts coming in. You go to the rodeo on Friday, Saturday, you go to Billy Bob's, or you go over to Mule Alley. this is where it's happening.
It absolutely
And,
is.
and
Yeah.
I'm so excited because this is where my museum is.
Yep.
You know, we moved from the south side where maybe we had 250 people come through all week. Now we got 5 million people that come through the stockyards and want to come and learn about the history of the West. And I'm looking forward to talking with you and getting back in line with our Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which is always the National Day of the American Cowboy. So I can tell you, Clayton, when it is, 100 years from now.
Yep.
And then that Friday night, we come over to your place and hang out with you for the Hall of Fame rodeo.
Yep.
So I'm excited about the partnership. Tell everybody if they want to find the Coliseum, what's your website? And if they want to reach out to you to talk about the history of the Coliseum or anything like that.
It is very simply cowtowncoliseum.com. Can't get it much simpler than that. We've kind of refocused the branding. The website actually used to be Stockyards Championship Rodeo, but now it's Cowtown Coliseum because we are so much more than just the rodeo. We do the rodeo, but for example, just this past week, along with the rodeo, we had the Road to the Horse event, which is a very, very prestigious event, been held for many years. In fact, it started in 2003 at the Coliseum, and they grew and grew, thought they had to go elsewhere. So it's been held in Lexington, Kentucky for the last few years at a really nice facility. They couldn't hold it there. They said, let's bring it home to Fort Worth. So we hosted that event. They loved it so much, they're coming back next year. So they're, even though they could go back next year to Kentucky, they're going to keep it right here in Fort Worth at the Coliseum. So we do all kinds of events. So if you want to find out information, we always have the events listed, cowtowncoliseum.com.
This has been a great conversation. As we toured the museum, I showed you our poster from '97. That's where we started Cowboys of Color, right in the Coliseum in 1996. So
We need to get it back there.
you heard it right here.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
we're going to try to work that out and bring it back to the Coliseum. Hey, this is Jim Austin. This is with my friend Clayton Cullum. It's been a pleasure talking with you,
Thank you.
sir, and look forward to great things. Welcome to Fort Worth, where the West begins.
Yes.
Have you heard that before? Where the West begins, right here in Cowtown, in the historic stockyards in Fort Worth. We're at 21st and Main. Come by, visit the museum. I want to thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to come visit with me.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Okay, Blue, we're going to sign off right now. Thank you for being behind the camera and making Mr. Austin look good and making my friend Clayton look good, sir. So thank you. Signing off, go to Jim Austin Online.